Greetings to everyone out there in the NoDQ galaxy. Welcome back to the Great NoDQ Debate, the series that we did several episodes last year, and we have finally brought it back here. We have an interesting topic to discuss, actually a topic that has been discussed amongst the NoDQ crew, and that is 205 Live. Does 205 Live really matter? Now, before we get started with the discussion, let me introduce our debaters. First, we have longtime NoDQ columnist and video personality, Virtue. How's it going, Virtue?
It's going good. I mean, we're recording this on a Saturday afternoon. I don't know when the last time I did a Saturday show with you guys. So this is kind of cool. I don't know when you're going to air it, but I am interested to see what Chris Mace has to say about his beloved 205 Live.
All right. And Chris Mace, of course, is part of the 205 Live crew. He does some videos with Noah Foster, who is perhaps the biggest proponent of 205 Live mattering. Chris, how's it going, my friend?
It's going good. I'm happy to finally get to do this video so I can stand up for 205 Live Matters and see what Virtue's points are, and let's have a debate about this.
Okay, so 205 Live has been on the air now for roughly 3 years, shortly after the brand extension got started up again. And at first it had some buzz, people were talking about it, but then over time people started to lose interest. The cruiserweights were at one time featured on Monday Night Raw and then stopped being featured on Monday Night Raw. So Virtue, I'll start with you. Why do you think people have lost interest in 205 Live over the past couple of years?
Because it's wrestlers, and the only people that care about wrestlers are the diehard wrestling fans, right? Not a casual fan, which to me, diehard wrestling fans don't want casual fans to watch wrestling because there's a battle against in-ring work rate and 30-minute matches with spots and false finishes and this and that, which is what 205 Live does, versus storytelling. I said on a recent episode of the No DQ Review, Jim Ross can't even commentate in today's era because it's all wrestling like it's a sport. The storytelling is gone. So let's go back, Aaron, like you suggested, to the beginning of 205 Live. The cruiserweights came in, right? I was kind of thinking, all right, can they at least get half of what the WCW cruiserweights used to be? And they put them on Raw. Changed the ropes. I don't care how they used to do that. That even faded. Why? Because it was just wrestlers performing wrestling moves to false finishes. The one time that they drew Enzo Amore, who can't wrestle, I admit that, but he's an entertainer. He didn't even know how to wrestle until he got hired by WWE and went up through NXT, right? They put the cruiserweight title on him. He was on Raw. He was main eventing Raw with the cruiserweights, okay? They were doing house show circuits. I don't know how many they got off of just cruiserweights. I know they would sprinkle in a couple other talent. Enzo was headlining those shows. He gets fired. We all know why, right? But never got in trouble for that. That's another time, another topic. And what happens at 205 Live? Boom, it's not on Raw anymore. And granted, it's still taped during the SmackDown show, okay? But here's the deal. Even Dave Meltzer, our buddy Dave Meltzer, said nobody watches this show, okay? And he's the Mr. Star Ratings guy, right? So that's because these matches, the Noah Fosters of the world, the Chris Maces, you guys like watching this because you love those wrestling matches. And that's fine. I'm not against that. You like to see the 20-minute matches with the false finishes and the high spots, the flip into the flying, no storyline, no psychology, and you like the announcers calling moves. But that's a niche. It's niche, right? Because, or else, why isn't 205 Live taking off? Why is it no longer on Raw, the cruiserweights? So in reality, you take star powers and storylines out of 205 Live, which I don't know if it really ever had other than Enzo, and it's just not a draw. It's a dime a dozen wrestlers, which all these wrestling companies today, this is my closing opening statement, all the AIW in Cleveland, Evolve, okay, NXT. Who else do we got? PWG, I don't even know if they're still around, Aaron.
Yeah, they are.
Okay,
yeah.
And there's countless other indie feds all trying to do this because they're only wanting to cater to the wrestling fans that remain, the ones that want work rate matches. I just suggest let's pepper that in with psychology and storylines. And let's bring back people that might not like that, but just want to watch wrestling for the story. 205 Live, to me, does not deliver that.
All right. Well, Chris, what would you say you agree with what Virtue just said? I mean, does he make some valid points? Why do you feel that the popularity of 205 Live has declined over the past few years?
I don't think it gets the showcase it deserves. I don't think they get the good quality time with being on Raw and SmackDown. You have the points here. He has one good point. I will give him what he said on what he just said. Enzo Amore, when he does, as much I didn't stand that man, when he went on 205 Live, those ratings did go up. I will give you that, absolutely. He was a horrible wrestler, but he did bring ratings, and they did build storylines around him. Now, in the last year and a half, 205 Live, if you haven't been watching, they have been doing some great storytelling. With the feuds, for example, with Mike Kanellis and Drake Maverick, they have been building, slow burning that story. They don't just easily just pop into a feud. They slowly tell a story. They had a good 5-month build where they had their unsanctioned match here just this past Tuesday after SmackDown. They've had other stories with Lorcan and Debari. They've had that storyline going for a while till they came to a conclusion. They do end up telling stories in the ring. Not always where you get on Raw and SmackDown where you have this elaborate story. You have all these backstage segments, backstage attacks, all this other stuff. You get more storytelling in the ring. That is something that is missing most of the time on the main roster. You don't get as much storytelling in the ring as you would used to back in the day. And like I said, the cruiserweights, yes, they are very talented. And I'll give them his points. They do have a lot of spot wrestling. They absolutely do. But a lot of times, a lot of the matches they do have are telling a story. You see the psychology where they're working on a body part. They're working on the arm. They're working on the leg. They're working on some part of the body. Most of the matches they have, if you watch them, like Chad Gable versus the gentleman, Jack Gallagher, they had good storytelling. They were each working on different parts of the body. They were telling a great story inside that ring. And they had a good storyline going back to it because they wanted a rematch because gentleman Jack Gallagher got counted out when Chad Gable won his debut match. He was determined he was going to get a rematch. He got his rematch, and it was a great conclusion, that little mini feud they had. They do have great storytelling. It's just more in the ring than it is what you see on the main roster.
All right, Virtue, do you have any other response to that? I mean, like
yes,
you said,
of course I do.
If that was the case, I mean, there would be more demand for 205 Live. But when they do go out there and have matches, it seems like they do win over the crowd. Even if the crowd is cold at the beginning, by the end of the match, the crowd is hot. So what do you have to say to that? I mean, it does appear that 205 Live still produces some quality television. Do you think maybe there's just too much WWE television? I mean, what are your thoughts on 205 Live? Is there a place for it, like on Monday Night Raw or SmackDown? Do you think they should go back to that? Or do you think what do you think should happen? Do you think it's even worth keeping around at this point?
Well, probably not on SmackDown because it's 2 hours. But on Raw, with the 3-hour time slot, right, there's spot for it. But not just sending 2 cruiserweights out there that are wrestling in a series of matches, which Chris Mays calls a storyline and a feud, and then they're wrestling, and for 2 minutes of their 10, 15-minute match, they focus on a body part, but then it's quickly ignored when they get into all the other spots. Okay. And main roster storylines or matches that tell a story. I mean, have you not seen some of these big-time matches with Seth Rollins and Brock Lesnar? Yeah, that told a story, okay? But it's not the style of match that you enjoy, so you probably ignore it. So Aaron Rift, you have a guy like Enzo Amore, right? Who's the current cruiserweight champion? It is one of my favorite guys, Drew Gulak, right?
Right.
Okay. He was being made by Enzo Amore back when the cruiserweights were still on Raw, when they had their own house shows. And I don't know how this would have panned out, but if somebody was creative enough, they were stooging Drew Gulak, looking goofy with Enzo. Ultimately, I think they were going to have Drew get so frustrated with Enzo, being his lackey, doing this, that Drew was going to turn on Enzo when they were ready, and that was going to be their feud. That's who Enzo was going to put over. Now, Gulak got there, right? But nothing was meaningful to me. He just became cruiserweight champion after the last cruiserweight champion. There was no. You tell me, Chris, if Enzo didn't have that stuff that went on with him, okay, and he still worked there, and they slow built that feud where Gulak eventually snapped, turned on Enzo, and he was the one to beat Enzo for that title, a title that Enzo was cheating to win. He berated all the cruiserweights on that segment. I think it was Raw. Was it on Raw where he made fun of the whole cruiserweight division? I don't know if it was Raw or 205 Live.
Yes, it was Raw.
That would have been the 205 Live fans would have rejoiced for Drew Gulak doing that. But what happens is they completely changed direction when they fired Enzo, and 205 Live just became a bunch of cruiserweights having matches. And like I said, I even heard rumors that they were going to change the time slot because after SmackDown, people leave, right? I was at Brooklyn SmackDown during WrestleMania weekend. People were leaving, right? That's a problem because there's only so many people that want to watch matches to suspend their disbelief, Chris, like it's a real competition, sporting competition. And I just think 205 Live drops the ball with that big time. Go back to WCW, right? And if it was before your time, there's the network. Look at those stars that were in that division. A lot of them got their opportunity because of that division, not just because the cruiserweights were hot, it's because they were stars. Okay, so are there any stars in 205 Live? We've seen Cedric Alexander come up, Buddy Murphy, and look at Cedric Alexander. He loses matches. He reveals himself under a mask, but he lost, so he just wasn't good enough. Look at Buddy Murphy. He's part of a decoy. If he does face Roman Reigns at SummerSlam, so be it. But he was part of a decoy shot to fool fans. That's what they're doing. Can you name somebody from 205 Live that's in WWE that's in a hot angle right now on the main roster? Because I might be missing somebody. Enzo's gone. Neville left, right? I mean, who is there?
Yeah, Mustafa Ali came from 205 Live, and he had the hot start getting in there. Had he not got injured, he might have been possibly in the Kofi spot right now had he not got injured, but that's neither here or there at this point. But Mustafa Ali right now is having relevant matches trying to feud for the Intercontinental title with Shinsuke Nakamura, so he is doing something of relevance, challenging for a title, and he did come from 205 Live, and he was very successful in there as well. He had some incredible matches with Buddy Murphy and all the other greats and Cedric Alexander, and I can go on with that. But he had great matches, and he was doing very well on SmackDown until he got that. Now, like I said, but now he's come back. He had promos to help try to rebuild him back up again, elevate him. He's having this feud Shinsuke Nakamura. He may possibly win the Intercontinental title. We don't know yet. We'll have to wait how everything plays out. But he's doing something as of relevance. I agree with you on Cedric Alexander. I have not liked how they did that. Him chasing 24/7 title. I didn't like that. I think he's a lot more talented than that for him chasing 24/7 title. And that BS, they should have not had him under a mask. He should have just took over the guy's place and tried to get into the ring and let himself be known who he was. But and then he got that upset win over Drew McIntyre. Okay, yes, he got a big win. That to me is a big win for him that he got. But it was the same way like Aaron brought up for the same scenario. It was like pretty much Rey Mysterio versus Kevin Nash the day after Super Brawl when he lost the mask, and Rey Mysterio got that fluke win over Kevin Nash. Now they're going to look like they're going to be building up the feud for SummerSlam. They're going to play it out the same way they did in WCW with that feud where Drew McIntyre gets his win back over Cedric Alexander. We'll have to wait and see how that plays out. So Cedric Alexander, at least right now, is doing something of relevance on the main roster by feuding with Drew McIntyre right now. So he is getting some kind of spotlight and getting some kind of time and getting some relevance and getting to showcase some of his talent that he has from 205 Live. Because he was having great feuds, building up that storyline after Enzo Amore got fired and building up that storyline where they went into that tournament to get his opportunity at WrestleMania, to win the Cruiserweight title, to help build that brand up and elevate that brand with his style of wrestling and telling stories. And for him to lose to Buddy Murphy, another one, great Cruiserweight wrestler. They haven't done anything with him as of yet of noteworthy yet. The only thing I've seen him do so far is they had the exclusive clip on him on SmackDown talking to Mustafa Ali, and then they had him talking about that Kevin Owens doesn't speak for him. If he goes up against Roman Reigns, said, I like Buddy Murphy. He's a great Cruiserweight wrestler. I like Buddy Murphy. He did great work in NXT, but I said, if he goes against Roman Reigns, I've already said on 205 Live, I don't see him winning. He's going to easily lose to Roman Reigns, and that's not going to really help him at all. It's like I said, some of this stuff is booking. How do you build these guys? At least these guys are getting opportunities now to go on the main roster, because for a while, none of these guys were able to go from 205 Live once they got being on Raw. None of these guys are really getting moved up to 205 Live. That's the reason why talented guys like Neville left.
All right. Well, You guys made some great points, and Virtue, I'll ask you this. What do you think can be done to make people reinvested in 205 Live? Is there anything that can be done, or is it just a case of where there's too much content in WWE right now where people have to pick and choose, and unfortunately the cruiserweights are not being chosen? Is there anything that can be done, or is it too late? What do you think?
So that's a good question, Aaron. And Chris, here's the problem with 205 Live. It is the redheaded stepchild of WWE programming. It's one of the last ones that came about. We already have 3 hours of Raw, 2 hours of SmackDown, NXT. So when I look at 205 Live, what it needs, Aaron Rift, stars. Look at it. Did I say 205 Live? Because this is where I'm going with this. NXT still gets buzz. Now, look, SummerSlam sold out, Aaron, but they're still trying to sell tickets for NXT. Even that is struggling to always sell out, as is the WWE product. So what WWE needs to do is they need to put the Johnny Garganos. He's a cruiserweight. Kofi Kingston, who's the WWE champion, he should be a cruiserweight too. These are the type of guys, if you make the 205 Live division with guys like that, then all of a sudden, oh, okay, now it's WCW Cruiserweight division. You got guys that have recognition, a cult following, some actually more than that. Kofi with the New Day, he should be in 205 Live, not the WWE champion. Johnny Gargano is another great example. I'm sure there's others. You said Mike Kanellis. You're saying the storyline. Again, what are these buildings of storylines you're talking about in 205 Live? Matches and feuds? Look at Kanellis. He's got more publicity on Raw in this angle that he's in with Maria, as weird as it is. And I know people like you, Chris, hate that stuff. It's gotten more attention than he's ever got since he's been in WWE. That's what I'm saying. It takes weird creative to get wrestlers over, and then you build to the matches. And then when you have the matches, then I see psychology, because two people really hate each other then. I don't want this Wade Keller thrill of victory, agony of defeat stuff, shake hands before matches like it's an athletic competition. No, I grew up watching the sports entertainment era. Andre and Hogan was one of the first things I remembered. Andre ripped that cross off of Hogan, scratched his chest, and it bled. And I know it's not that time anymore, but I'm telling you what, look at the wrestling fans back then and through the 90s. Look at them now. There's less people watching wrestling. Why? Because it's only the people that have to watch it, that need to watch it, that love to watch it, like Aaron, who covers it for a living, me, who covers it occasionally, you, Chris, Noah, okay? Where are the diehards? Where are the 10 million people that watch wrestling? Will AEW bring that back? I don't know. But that's what it needs, stars.
All right. Well,
and that's how you build the people they got into stars. But you need stars to build stars. Correct, Aaron?
Well, Chris, I mean, would you agree with Virtue on that? I mean, if you were in charge, what would you do to shake things up with 205 Live to build the audience and make it more important to the casual fans? Because you guys are saying it matters, but the numbers are not necessarily reflecting that. So what would you do to get those numbers and that interest in 205 Live up?
Well, first thing, if I was part of the creative, you have Eric Bischoff back. He's running SmackDown. That's what they said, right? What did Eric Bischoff do, right? He helped build that cruiserweight division in WCW. He brought the great talents like Rey Mysterio, like the Dean Malenkos, like the Chris Benoits, like the Jerichos. He brought all these guys in to build a great cruiserweight division. He was smart enough to know back then he got to get a hot open to start off a wrestling crowd to get them excited. You put a cruiserweight match on there. You get a good hot open to get going, get the people going, get the crowd invested in the show. For people who are going to flip through their channels, you got to be able to get the people invested. What did he do? He used cruiserweight matches to build the crowd up, get people invested. Where people were flipping the channel and they're going, "Oh, what is this? Oh my God, this is exciting! This looks like excitement. I gotta stay tuned and watch more." That's what he did. You have Eric Bischoff back right now. He's in SmackDown. He could easily help out with 205 Live and help build up that brand a little bit. Get some of these guys back on the main roster, either on Raw or SmackDown. Merge them all. You can either merge them have some on Raw, some on SmackDown. You could have different storytelling. You could have feuds with guys from main roster and 205 Live. You could have some build up some storylines to go ahead and try to integrate the cruiserweights into it, because technically, if we really think about it on storyline, still Raw still owns the 205, still owns the cruiserweights if we go back in storyline through the television show. Am I right, Virtue?
Well, I mean, if they never technically discontinued it, but in WWE, once you're not pushed, then that's them discontinuing it. So.
Well, I mean, the point is,
you mentioned Bischoff. All those things that you said he did great for the cruiserweights to allowing it to happen, I'm not going to take that away from him. He also let a lot of those great superstars walk because he wouldn't push them into the main event. So don't give Eric Bischoff all that praise. He ruined a lot of the great things he created as well. So.
All right. Well, Virtue, any final thoughts to wrap this up? Any other arguments Chris made that you would like to counter?
I was one of those guys that walked out of the arena to go hit the subway when 205 Live happened. Maybe it's bad positioning by WWE, not doing it after the match. I mean, why does it have to be 205 Live? Why can't they film it before SmackDown so the crowd coming in for SmackDown who's still excited to see SmackDown, even if it's recorded, right? I mean, they probably could do it live on the network before SmackDown and then have like a 15-minute gap. But still, 205 Live is the redheaded stepchild to all the other WWE programming. And my closing statement is it needs stars or guys like Gargano who at least are that extra level of excitement, or Kofi Kingston, who to me shouldn't be in the main event of the main roster but could make cruiserweights worthwhile to me. That's what I think. Closing.
All right. Chris, any final counters to Virtue's arguments? Any closing statements?
My closing statement is this. I said 205 Live has relevance in wrestling, whether it's they have great matches and they have great storytelling, in my opinion. Virtue disagrees. I disagree with him. I think it gives great storytelling. I think with the right elevation and the right storytelling on the main roster, that could help elevate that brand and give them more of a showcase to make people more interested. That could actually maybe help Raw ratings or SmackDown ratings, depending on where they put them at. Like I said, you have a lot of talented wrestlers on 205 Live. I know a lot of the diehards that like, the spots and everything like that. I also like a great story, too. I'm that old school mentality, as Virtue said. Yes, I watched WCW. I watched a great history of WCW. I remember the light heavyweight title from the 90s when Brian Pillman held it and Jushin Thunder Liger, and then they held it for that brief time they had that title. I know history very well when it comes to WCW. The point is, they can take what the lessons they've learned from WCW and they can take the lessons they've learned from WWE when they had their light heavyweight division, because that's one thing they did different with their WWE light heavyweight division in 97. They did use it to tell stories. They actually did tell stories with that as well. But the point is, give 205 Live matters. Give 205 Live a chance, because of that they do have great matches and they will get great storytelling. And if you watch how everything slow burns, a lot of stories slow burn. Roberto Del Rio, Roberto Del Rio. I keep pronouncing his name wrong.
I'd say if Alberto Del Rio was on 205 Live, I'd be interested.
Oh, I bet you would. But like I said, they're doing a great slow burn with him, telling a great story, getting into video package, showing his past history, telling the story of his history and his heritage. Like I said, they're doing a great job by building some of these stars that could be the future on the main roster with ease, because now they have been able to break that glass ceiling and been moving people, even though they haven't done much with Cedric Alexander and really nothing with Buddy Murphy. Mustafa Ali, they are pushing a little bit, putting him in Intercontinental title feud. They have relevance, and they should be able to break that glass ceiling like a lot of the great stars in Cruiserweight division in WCW did. You had to leave to be able to do that, however, which I will give you that. They ended up having to leave to be able to make a name for themselves. But look at the success they have after they did break away from that Cruiserweight division. Intercontinental titles, world titles, U.S. titles. They got to hold all kinds of championships all over the world, not only including WWE, but other promotions too. So, like I said, I'd say give 205 Live a chance. Like I said, it does matter to me because, like I said, we're looking at some great future stars here, in my opinion, next few years on the main roster. That's my opinion. That's my take on it.
Bring Enzo back. Have him jump Gulak from behind. I would be on your show every week if something like that happened. I'm just, again, last point. Sorry, I had to throw that in there.
I'm going to hold you to that. If Enzo Amore ever shows up, I'm going to message you, and you're going to appear on that episode. If he shows up, I'm going to hold you to that.
Time heals all wounds. Sign him, WWE.
Yes. Well, thank you guys so much for coming on today and discussing 205 Live. Now it's up to the viewers to decide who won this debate. So leave a comment on YouTube, on NoDQ.com. Let us know what you thought about the arguments that were made, who you thought had the better debate. And now let's go ahead and do the plugs before we sign off. Chris Mace, we'll start with you. Go ahead. Anything you would like to plug or promote?
Support Aftermatch Wrestling. Stephen and Jerry do a great job of What's NXT and the NXT Party. Support the Simple Man Noah Foster, especially because 205 Live does matter. We do that show every week. He does other content for Ring of Honor, Impact, the New Japan Pro Wrestling, the G1 series, which has been incredible so far. Support Cindy G and the ladies of NoDQ. Support James and Owen because they do a great job of the work they do. Pretty much support everybody on. Support Colin Andrews because for the chopping block, he does great work with his stuff. Short, sweet, and to the point reviews. And like I said, support everybody on NoDQ. Like I said, they all work hard and they take time out of their days to do all the work they do and bring all the content they do. So just support all of them. They all do a great job.
All right. Well, thank you for that. Virtue?
Follow me on Twitter. Troll with me on Twitter at NoDQ_Virtue. Go to my Facebook, NoDQ.com/Virtue. I also do Virtue's Rage there. We do the NoDQ review every week. Usually big pay-per-view weeks. We turn that into a preview and prediction show. So we got a lot of stuff coming up. What else do I got, Aaron? Oh, NoDQ.com/shirts. You can get a bunch of NoDQ merch. You can get the Noah Foster shirt. Aaron has a bunch of Troll Slayer stuff up there. And they're also on black tees, not gray. So for you black T-shirt fans, they're out there for you. That's all I got.
All right. Thank you guys again for coming on. Make sure you guys stay tuned to NoDQ.com for the very latest wrestling news and rumors, and we will see you all next time.